Now, let us consider this network. Ito yung ginamit natin last time with some modification, of course. Pero ang pag-uusapan kasi natin dito is about DHCP, so we will make this network as simple as possible. Okay, now, last time, sabi natin, ang isang network, actually, you can also identify a network dun sa router. Pag tinignan mo yung router, kung ano yung nakakonect dun sa router natin is considered as a network. For example, this connection to the switch 1, this will be considered as one whole network. Alright? Pag-usapan natin yan last time. No? So this is one whole network, and this is another network, and of course another network, and ito ay isang napakalaking network. Okay? Pero hindi dito yung focus natin. Ang focus natin is on this network connected to this router, and we will give it an IP address, a network address actually. Let us say the IP address or the network address is 192.168.1.0, okay, /24. Now, itong /24 na to, if you are not yet familiar with this, don't worry dahil pag-uusapan natin yan on later videos. But for the moment, ang kailangan lang natin matandaan dito sa /24 na to, it talks about the part of this network address that is the first 24 bits. Ibig sabihin, yung first 24 bits, which is this first three numbers, okay, hanggang dito, ang tinutukoy niya rito ay yung network number. Okay, so take note of that. Or, tinatawag natin ito na street. Ito yung analogy natin last time. Napakaganda kasing analogy nito. No? Very, parang eksaktong-eksakto siya doon sa addressing scheme natin. Okay. And then also, yung last number, this is the last number. This talks about the device number. Okay. Or kung pagbabasihan natin yung analogy ng street, ito yung number naman ng bahay natin. Alright. Now, let us say PC1 at saka PC2. Lalagyan natin siya ng IP address. This could be basing on the last number, which is the device number. Let us say this is .10 and this is .11. Alright. Or yung buong IP address niyan will be 192.168. Okay. .1.10. Ito naman ang IP address, 192.168.1.11. Okay? So, binigyan natin ng IP addresses yung ating mga host devices, yung mga PC natin. And kung binigyan natin siya manually, ang tawag natin doon ay static addressing. Okay? So, lahat ng mga devices, katulad ng server, katulad ng router, yung mga interfaces kasi nito, ay may IP addresses din. So, pag binigyan natin siya manually ng mga IP addresses, we call it static IP addressing. And ang static IP addressing is very common and very useful kapag ka nilalagyan natin ng IP address, for example, yung ating server, because the server should have the same IP address every time. And also, yung ating mga routers should have a static IP address. So, dapat manually talaga nilalagyan natin yan ng IP address. But if we're going to use the DHCP, ang ginagawa kasi ng DHCP as we have understood in the introduction, DHCP stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. It means automatically nagbibigay siya ng IP address doon sa mga host natin o sa mga devices natin. Siya na ang nagmamanage, siya na ang nagdi-distribute ng IP address on a particular network. So, hindi ka na manually maglalagay. Yung DHCP server na ang bahalang maglagay ng mga IP addresses. Okay? Now, let's talk about the DHCP server. Ano ba ang pwede maging DHCP server? An internal server can be configured as a DHCP server. Okay? It's either you use a Windows server, let's say the Windows 2012 server, o pwede rin mga Linux OS, Linux servers. Pwede rin as syempre, kung ang pag-uusapan natin ay Cisco networking, usually pagka sa networking, ang ginagawa nating server ay yung router mismo. Okay, so we can make this a DHCP server also. And take note that the internal server, Windows machine or Linux machine, can be a DHCP server. A router could be a DHCP server also, pero ginagamit siya one at a time. No? Hindi pwedeng sabay. Kung ang router mo na ang DHCP server, you might not want to configure a DHCP server on the internal server and vice versa. Okay, so isa-isa lang ang paggamit natin ng DHCP server, either the internal server or the router. But in this case, we're going to use the router as a DHCP server just simply because we are now we are preparing for the Cisco bootcamp. Okay, at sa Cisco bootcamp, dito tayo nagko-concentrate. Okay, kasi tayo mga network engineers, hindi naman tayo system engineers, and dito tayo magfo-focus sa router. Now, ang DHCP configuration has two roles. No? Ito na nga yung isang server. Siya yung nagpo-provide. At sino yung nangangailangan ng IP address? Ang nangangailangan ng IP address, of course, is what we call the client. Okay, so we have a client and we have the server. The server is the one providing the IP addresses, and the client is the one that needs the IP addresses or IP address for its own use. Okay, so in this case, yung PC1 natin and PC2, they will be our clients. No? And yung server natin, that will be the router. Okay, ngayon, paano ang proseso ng DHCP? Ganito ang nangyayari. Say for example, we have a client. The client will be actually discovering the server. I-discover niya yan. Ibig sabihin, it will go out into the network. No? Papunta yan dun sa network. Maghahanap yan ng pwedeng mag-provide sa kanya ng IP address. And luckily, it discovered router 1 as a DHCP server. So, ang tawag natin doon is discovery. So, na-discover ni client yung server. And then, sabi ni server, uy, ang swerte mo naman, na-discover mo ko. Alam mo, meron ako nakahanda sa'yo na IP address. Ayan. So, ang gagawin ngayon ni server ay mag-o-offer. So, it will offer an IP address for the client to use. So, ano naman ang gagawin ni client? Pag nakita niya yung offer, sabi ni client dun kay server, wow, ang ganda nung ino-offer mo sa akin. Pwede ko bang mahingi yan? Yan. So, magre-request siya. So, pagka nag-request siya, sabi ni server, oh, nagustuhan mo pala yung ino-offer ko sa'yo. So, ayan na, binibigay ko na sa'yo. That is what we call acknowledgement, or pwede ko na lang sabihin na ACK. Okay? So, yan yung process ni DHCP. Client will discover the server, then the server will offer the client an IP address, and then the client, nagustuhan niya yung offer, magre-request siya, and the server will give the IP address to the client. And the whole process can be explained by Dora. Napansin niyo ba yan? Yan. Dora. Okay. Discovery. Na-discover niya. Offer. Request. And then, of course, acknowledgement. Okay. Si Dora the Explorer. Alright? Okay, so yan yung process ng DHCP. Okay? Now, let's talk about some of the options that is available for the DHCP. So, halimbawa, nag-ano na siya, no? Si router 1 as our DHCP server, nag-offer siya kay PC1 and also kay PC2, na-discover, nag-offer, nag-request, and then acknowledge. PC1 and PC2 now has IP addresses of its own for its own use, of course, doon sa network natin. And of course, merong mga options na available for the DHCP process. So ano-ano ba yung mga options na yon? Number one, meron kang pool na pwedeng gamitin. Ano ba yung pool na yan? Yung pool na yan is actually the range of IP addresses that can be used. Okay? Tinatawag din natin ito na scope. Pagdating kay Windows Server call this scope instead of pool. Yung pool, sa Cisco devices, pag nag-set up ka ng DHCP, we call it pool. Right? And then also, we have lease. Yan. Yung pre-provide ni router, for example, na IP address on devices, merong time limit yan. So, pwede mong gawin yung time limit as unlimited. It's up to you. Pero pwede rin at a certain time, pwedeng palitan yan ni server ng ibang IP address. And pwede natin yan na i-lease. Okay, so ang tawag natin is lease. Ito kasi yung time kung saan magiging sayo lang yung IP address na ipoprovide ni router. And also, we have what we call the DNS. Yan, the DNS. Pwede rin siya mag-provide ng DNS server. Ano ba yung DNS? DNS stands for Domain Name Service. Or tinatawag din ito na Domain Name System. Okay, another option na pwedeng i-provide for the DHCP is the exclusion or yung tinatawag natin na excluded address. Okay? Pero kay Windows or kay Linux, tawag natin dito is reservation. Alright? So excluded or reservation, that's another option for the DHCP. Actually, excluded, uutusan lang natin si router, yung DHCP server natin. Sabihin natin kay router, okay router, wag mong ipapamigay yung mga IP address na i-exclude ko because I'm reserving it to other device or interface. No? Pwede kong gawin yan na static assignment. Halimbawa, maglalagay ako ng IP address dito sa aking interface o kaya IP address on my internal server which is statically provided. No? Tayo ang maglalagay. So, utusan ko si router 1. Sabihin ko, okay, router 1, i-exclude mo yung mga IP addresses na yan because this is already given to other devices. And wag mo na ipapamigay sa iba kasi definitely there will be a conflict. So, ang tawag natin doon is excluded or in other term, we call it the reservation. Alright? So, we call this the DHCP options. These are the options. And pagka tayo ay nagkaroon na ng actual or manual or actual na configuration, pupuntahan natin itong mga options na ito. Okay. Now, let's go to another feature of the DHCP is what we call the DHCP IP helper. Ano ba yung IP helper? Ganito yan. For example, we have multiple networks here. Alright. And meron tayong mga iba't ibang mga networks dyan. Pwede bang maglagay na lang tayo ng isang DHCP server for all of those networks? Well, yes, pwede. No? Pwede natin gawin yan na sa bawat network na magkakaroon ng IP address, isa na lang yung DHCP server natin instead of having one router on every network that will provide the IP addresses. Pwedeng isa na lang siya. Yun nga lang, ang mangyayari dito is, of course, you have different networks. No? Kung meron kang iba-ibang mga networks, therefore, you will have different network addresses. So, ang pwedeng gawin ngayon ni DHCP server, this outside DHCP server, pwede niyang hati-hatiin yung mga subnet. So, for example, on network 1, network 2, network 3, iba-iba yung mga scope or iba-iba yung mga subnets for each individual network. At yan yung ipoprovide niya on different networks. Yun nga lang, for example, on this case that we have a router for this particular network, paano siya hihingi ng IP address dito sa DHCP server natin and ipoprovide niya doon sa network niya? This router will become a DHCP IP relay, okay, or more popularly known as the IP helper. Okay? So, paano ba yung IP helper? Ang gagawin nito, hihingi siya ng IP address on the DHCP server and then ipoprovide niya doon sa mga devices inside of its network. So, say for example, PC1 will be looking for an IP address. Ang makikita niya actually dyan ay si router 1 as an IP helper. Okay, so magkakaroon ka ng DORA twice. Alright? So, burahin lang natin ito. Ano? Yan. Magkakaroon tayo ng DORA na twice. Dalawang beses lang yan. Dalawang beses yan. This is your PC1, for example. And this is your DHCP server. Okay, so you have the DHCP server here on the other end. And of course, your router 1 will serve as the relay. Ito yung relay natin. Okay, so PC1 will discover, router 1 will also discover the DHCP server. Okay, and then ang mangyayari, mag-o-offer si DHCP server, goes to router 1 as a relay, and then goes to PC1 for the offer. PC1 will request, it will accept the offered IP address. Magre-request siya, will go to router 1, and then the router 1 will go to the DHCP server. DHCP server will acknowledge. The router 1 will act as a relay. And then it will be acknowledged by the PC1. So, bawat network, for example, ganyan yung magiging process. Dalawang DORA or Discover Offer Request and Acknowledgement ang mangyayari. Okay, so that's the function of the DHCP IP helper. All right. So I hope some of the issues on the DHCP na clear out natin yan. Pinag-usapan natin is about the static IP and the DHCP and also the DHCP options and the DHCP IP helper. I hope bago tayo pumunta sa IP addressing, actually meron pa tayong actual configuration for the DHCP. But some of the issues or some of you want to know about the DHCP, I hope na-clear out na natin sa oras na ito. Okay? So, sana nakatulong sa inyo to and we will move on to the next topic. Thank you for viewing.